Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny. I am head of content at DNA. Really excited for today's webinar. We have the team of Coin and Card Auction. Team, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thank you, Khalil.
Awesome, awesome. Mike, I'm going to pass the mic to you. Can you give us a rundown of what we can expect today for today's webinar and kind of introduce the whole team here?
Absolutely, we'll do that. I'll go ahead and jump on the share screen here and we'll switch over. And so if we can do that quickly, let me do a screen share. And here's our presentation. So first of all, I'll give you a sort of a little low disc up, give you a quick idea of who we are. So Coin and Card Auctions, first of all, let me say this. We are so happy to have all of you with us here today. You represent really the backbone of the collectibles industry. I am in contact with many of you through LinkedIn. Trust me, I appreciate your input. I appreciate everything that you do for the industry because we're really on the same path. We're on the same trajectory, and but this is the difference. We have brought the technologies, the latest technologies that exist in the world today, to the collectibles industry. We're going to share some of that with you. I want to introduce also some of our team. We our founders, and you'll at the end of the at the Q&A section, you'll be talking with Gary Chingren, Dr. Gary Chingren. He's a retired orthopedic surgeon. He's 62 years, I believe, in collectibles. You'll hear from Mikey Siegal, a young man in the 40s, I guess. One of the hardest workers I've ever known. He lives to work and loves to work. You'll hear from him as well. But we do have an extensive group of highly experienced individuals. Mike Ellis, a four-term American Numismatics Association governor and expert grader, and many others, probably more than I can mention right at the moment. So I'll go ahead now and just jump into our agenda. Basically, what I'm going to do is tell you what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to say it. So here's our agenda. One is a company overview. We've just covered that. Next, we're going to talk about the technology. Then we'll go to the market opportunity and a roadmap. Why invest? That's a good one. Lead investors testimonials. That's what I was referring to when I was talking about Mikey. And then we'll open the Q&A. Now, remember that the end in mind here is our purpose. Our focus today is to empower you with enough information to invest. That's what we're doing here today.
Yep.
And
And I just want to, thank everyone who took time out of their day to join the webinar. And if you weren't able to attend the webinar, don't worry. This webinar is going to be recorded, and we will be posting a full recap post-webinar. And if you have a question throughout the webinar, there's a Q&A chat box below. Leave your questions there. We're going to make sure we have some time at the end to get your questions answered. Just a quick disclaimer, due to SEC guidelines, we can't talk anything that's forward looking. So if you have any questions around the financials, around projections, anything regarding that, please do not add that into the chat box. If you have a question around that, send a message directly to Mike. He can redirect you to where you can find that answer. With that being said, Mike, I'm going to pass the mic back to you.
thank you, Khalil. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. So the first thing that we'll focus on here is the potential of our technology. And I get a lot of questions prior to the webinar on this, and I'm very happy that my daughter Megan, who's with us here today, has prepared this and done an incredible job. But we're just going to talk about deep neural networks and artificial intelligence. We'll show you a sample digital finger report. Now, this is important specifically because there's no recourse. There's no mechanisms that are constructed in the industry when you submit a coin, for example, and you get it graded, or a sports card. It is what it is, and there's no scientific evaluations or anything of this nature, which tells you what you need to know. So we'll talk a little bit about counterfeit detection. That's huge. That's just huge, and this technology is absolutely ideal for that. We'll talk about the marketplace and how royalties and how ERC 721 and Web3, and the deep neural network artificial intelligence is a runtime engine, how that interacts with the future smartphone application. So for now, then there's a little close-up of it. I'll go ahead, and here is a sample of a coin digital fingerprint analysis that one of the ones that we create. This is in a flipbook form. So nowadays, this is what you can get. I mean, we create a digital fingerprint of that collectible physical asset. So if you want to know, is it an MS-65 or 64 or 63? This will tell you. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. It's very concise, and more than happy to, of course, share any additional information that you may want on that. So from now on, I'll go ahead and jump into a mini demo. I'm going to talk through it. It's just a little bit long, but I think it's important. This is a scanner. It's a 2.5 micron laser scanner, and you can see we've got a number of coins on the scanner. We have taken and we are extracting data. We extract the height and the color data, and then we use the deep neural networks and artificial intelligence analytics power and capabilities to establish a baseline against the grade. And by doing this, we know what that grade is. We can then utilize algorithms, and it just removes the guesswork. There's no guesswork here, and this applies. It doesn't matter whether this is a numismatic. It doesn't matter whether it's a sports trading card or a comic collectible or art. The laser system doesn't care. It has no bias. It will simply provide output. Now, one part of this process as we go is alignment, and this, of course, is batch file. And what you can see here is pretty cool. We superimpose an image over another and then alignment. Now, this is what an output actually looks like right here. When we capture data, this is a little tiny bag mark, as you can see up in the upper corner, represents about 29,000 measured height data points of 7 million in a single coin on one side. And this is what it looks like when the human views it. You can see this is the same thing. So it's just amazing technologies. And we'll go ahead now and move on to the next section here, which is a market opportunity. It's a $16 billion market, generally speaking, today. The Web3 collectibles market is forecasted at 402 billion. When I talk about royalties here a little bit more, think about that for a moment. That's just a massive market. And if anybody ever wanted to know, just a fact of information, since 1887 to 2021, the total US mintage of coins, as you can see right there, is 835 billion. That's a lot of coins. Now, again, as I had mentioned earlier, these technologies apply to the sports trading cards, comics, art, makes no difference to the system. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the competitive differentiation. So, first of all, Coin-and-Card Auctions has developed the world's first patented automated grading technology. This has never existed. It's never been done. We have done the impossible. And that is specifically the deep neural networks and artificial intelligence data processing. Anybody has any questions, give me a call. More than happy to share the details with you. But we're applying the science, math, and technology to standardize the accuracy of the grading. As I mentioned earlier, for counterfeit detection, you can't fool this system. And the reason I say that is this: we take a known counterfeit and we scan it into our system. We then use a series of algorithms which do pattern matching and identification. You're talking about roughly 60 million measured data points. You'll never fool this. Once we have captured that data, we own it. Now, scalable automation. Yes, this technology, there's a high volume in the market. Can we meet those volume requirements? That's very important, and the answer is yes. You know, our purpose really for this is that we want to license these technologies for third-party grading, for grading stabilization. This makes everything the same across the board. Other market opportunities, for example, lateral market expansion into the insurance industry. I'm sure that they would probably love to have these sorts of technologies that will assist them when they're wanting to do insurance policies. A lot of neat stuff on that. Now, I'll touch also on the smartphone, iOS, and Android application. That's just huge. 85% of the world's population today have use and know how to use smartphones, iOS and Androids. We all have them. So what does this mean? It means that we can take the deep neural networks and the artificial intelligence as a runtime environment and utilize that to build these smartphone point and click applications. Now, eventually, what that means, we'll get to a point with this technology where you can not only identify collectibles, whether raw or graded, but you can also actually grade them. I mean, I know people are going to shake their heads and say that's never been done. You're right, it never has been, but we have proven it. We developed a proof of concept, and we are moving beyond the proof of concept to a phase one production grade minimum viable product, and we expect to have that into the marketplace within around 6 to 9 months. So I'll go ahead and move on from there, and certainly we'll be welcoming your questions on there, and we'll go from there into a roadmap. So where have we been and where are we going? Well, we started like everybody else a little over 2 years ago, and I put together a fantastic team of people. One of the people, Mike Ellis, as I mentioned earlier, just he's a walking gold mine. We have we have some of the top people that exist. I mean, in the tech side, in the development side, in the numismatics, sports cards, all collectibles. So we started off last year. After doing the POC, we did a $1.1 million Reg CF. We raised and filled it very, very quickly, really, really fast. And we've now gone to a follow-on 3.8 million Reg CF, which is in progress. That's what we're asking you to invest in. Now, obviously, the Web3 development teams are in place. We have Fortune 500 experienced management. I mean, you'll get a chance to meet the people on our team. I'd love to take some time talking about them. They're incredible, absolutely incredible people. Let me go ahead and move though from there and into why invest. Well, market growth potential, and we have these little things on the right-hand side. You can see there's also potential acquisition target. This is a niche industry, let's face it. It's heavily branded, it's well controlled, it's very niche. In that, what does that mean? It means that these companies need this technology. And so does that, makes a potential acquisition target? I think it does. The other thing that's really important is collectibles transferability. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But so market growth potential, the industry, it's huge. We have the technology and we have the opportunity to capture the collectibles third-party grading and marketplace industry. That is huge. Now, that doesn't mean that we individually will do this. It means that we want to license our technologies so that the third-party grading, for example, can use it to stabilize the industry. And there's so many things, so I'm happy to answer any questions on that. So again, there's licensing, there's royalties, there's third-party grading, subscription marketplaces, digital fingerprinting, perpetual and aggregated royalties as revenue channels. This is a big one. We'll talk a little more about that. Approximately 6.5 billion users, smartphone users, and our app will provide accessibility on a global scale to anybody with a smartphone. I spoke briefly about the lateral markets, the insurance. We're already exploring that. We've got a number of insurance companies that are quite interested. I want to talk also briefly about a fantastic company, Rough AI, amazing company. We've joint ventured with them. They have a database of 250 million consumers, and they use demographics-based artificial intelligence to develop demographics-based marketing, so we can really focus in on targeting our marketing and building community. So I think that's just an incredible opportunity and avenue for us as well. Now, again, potential, acquisition target. What's really important here? Well, and this is one of the reasons that we, other than my passion for the industry, and everybody that's with us is a passion for the industry. There's another reason that we got engaged in, and specifically where we started with numismatics. Look at the collectibles shelf life. Collectible shelf life is measured in decades, if not in centuries. You can go right now, as we speak today, and go onto eBay or Heritage Auctions and buy a Roman Constantine coin that's over 2,000 years old. Tell me any other product in the world that you can do that with. There are none, and it's a massive market. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are curious about the royalties aspect of this. Essentially, what this means is with this technology is that consumers will now have the ability to attach royalties to their collectibles. Now, we share the royalties with the consumers. So what that means is, obviously, it means aggregation. So every time a coin sells, we profit, and they do as well. Now, I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I know that people have never, many people, unless you're already in the tech side, you know this very well. Those who are not familiar with it, but I assure you, it is coming soon. You will see it. And by the way, we have, I should have mentioned earlier, we have filed international patents on all of everything I've described to you. We have filed international patents on and or have patent pendings to as follow-ons. So I'm going to then talk for a moment here about transferability. I'm 66 years old and I do collect. I'm a collector, and when I get to a point where I want to pass on my collection, will my son or my daughters or whomever want to take over that role? Well, today we're in a very fast-paced society. And there's, as a hobby industry, which it has been since we know time immemorial, probably not. And so that creates a big problem. So one of the things that we have addressed in here is transferability using the IP and the royalties. Now, what that means is that let's say you have amassed a collection, 1 million, 2 million, whatever it is, over 50 or 60 years, like many people do. And they want to be able to transfer those assets and to a continuation to their family. Well, they can now do that through royalties. This is not something that has ever existed. It's only possible in Web3. Again, this is hitting the marketplace. We are the leaders in this space. We love being here. Now, I'll go ahead and move on a little bit more from that to lead investors. I mentioned earlier, and I want to now introduce Dr. Gary Chingren. He's a retired orthopedic surgeon. Fantastic guy, does just amazing. He's an avid coin collector. He's a registry set participant. And I'm going to have Gary go ahead and just tell you about his take on why is he an investor? What interests him in these technologies? So with that, let me turn the mic, Gary, over to you. You're muted, Gary.
Well, when Mike brought the idea to me, it had a lot of appeal, mostly from my standpoint, from the automated grading standpoint. I'm a registry collector. Anybody that is in the registry sets knows what that is. And the price difference between the highest grade and the highest grade is exponential. You can go from 1,000 to 20,000 with one grade. Therefore, the accuracy is very, very important. I have been part of the shenanigans that go in that I have sent specifically Standing Liberty quarters back in 2 or 3 times to get the full head designation, come back AU 53, AU 55, AU 58, and finally AU 55 full head. Well, that increased its value considerably on the same coin. If this system had been available, wouldn't have had to do that. It would have happened hopefully on the first time. the other, the royalties are interesting and I think have a big play, particularly for the younger people. I don't know what's going to happen to my collection when I'm gone. But the potential, and again, wanting to get to the automated grading, so it's based on science, objectivity, rather than subjectivity. The counterfeit detection, again, on the front, on the obverse of a Lincoln penny, there are 15 million data points. There's no way in the world that anybody can duplicate that kind of data in a counterfeit coin. So that's very important. If you have valuable coins, the better documentation you have on it. And sometimes photos are really good and they can distinguish a coin. But a 15 million data points would be that much better. And I would think the insurance industry would really like that. The potential for growth in all the fields I see is great. I see yesterday that Stack's Bowers Galleries are partnering with David Hall and somebody else to offer third-party stickering like CAC is, but they're starting grading coins and the dealers aren't quite sure what to do and the registry set people aren't quite sure what to do. And yet another third-party stickering is coming out so they can authenticate that, yes, this is indeed the right grade. That to me just indicates that there are errors in the grading. We all know there are with all of the major third-party grading systems. Again, we want to level the field, get it to a scientific basis rather than a subjective basis.
Thank you, Gary. I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'll just ask you just one question here. How many years have you been collecting coins?
62 years.
62.
You
Wow.
remember I started in 1960 with the small date pennies.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Mikey, and I should mention Gary is also a founder in this company and an investor. So now Mikey is our lead investor, and Mikey, as you can see, is an entrepreneur, coin collector. He's an avid coin collector, lead investor. He's on the board of directors. He's one of the founders. He's a registry set participant. And one of the things that sort of I find interesting is that Mikey, as a registry set participant, likes one of the grading homes. Is it NGC, Mikey, or PCG?
Yeah.
NGC. And
Yeah,
Gary,
I like NGC, and Gary likes PCGS, so we always see who has the better collection. So
right, and so and I find that very humorous. These guys are always going back and forth on which one do they it's I don't it's funny. It's funny. I enjoy it. Anyway, Mikey, if you don't mind, as a lead investor, can you tell us about you? Tell us about what your interest is. Why did you invest?
So the reason why I invested, my dad has been in coins for about 40 years. He's been asking me to get into it for a long time. And so I surprised him and I bought a coin. Just went to a store and dealer sold me what I thought was a fair deal. Took it, gave it to him as a birthday present, paid way too much. And I realized I didn't get a fair price. And I said, okay, that's it, I'm done. And fast forward about a year, we're sitting around at a good steakhouse in Chicago, and my dad was there, Gary was there, a couple other people were there, and my dad said, I need to teach my son 40 years of everything I know. And I said, I don't have the time. We need something computerized. And then that's how we got introduced to Mike Johnson and everything, and how the company started. And my goal is to make it fair across the board, and our technology is going to be able to use for coins, cards, comic books, art, and really it's tons of industries have reached out to us because our technology, we want to license it to all these companies.
Great, thank you for that, Mikey. I appreciate that very much. Would either of you like to speak to counterfeit detection? Why don't we just talk about that just briefly for the benefit of those who are participating in this webinar. Gary, why don't you speak for a second about counterfeit detection? I know you mentioned it briefly, but what do you find in this technology that is going to, and I mean, just in your words, what will be the impact of this technology with regard to counterfeit detection?
Well, the people that do a lot of coins and are experts in grading, mostly the dealers, are well aware that there are counterfeits out there. Most of the counterfeits are in high valued coins, and the counterfeits are spottable by them by the slight differences that can be present in the coin. Sometimes the date is just a little bit different. The 6 doesn't look right. The mint mark doesn't look quite right. And they know what to look for, but most of the average collectors don't, and therefore somebody can sell you a fraudulent coin. With the data from the scans, the definition is really great. And the more you blow it up, the more you can see. And any minor difference, if you know what you're looking for, is easy to see. Hopefully with AI and the deep neural network, the machines can be taught what to look for, and they will know that a 1960 penny does not have a medium date. It's either big or small. And so if somebody comes up with a medium date or a slant in one of the numbers that's wrong, it will be detected.
I would like to also add, China's been bragging about how good their counterfeits are and how it gets just pushed into the cycle of coins and everything. And so China's been bragging and everything. So when we were at our last show in Chicago, the director of the Mint came over to us and saw what we're working on in our technology, and she was very impressed with what our plans are for the technology and counterfeit specifically. I didn't realize how bad the counterfeiting problem was until I started talking to him.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mikey. And that's a good point. I do recall that meeting with the director of the U.S. Mint, and she was so impressed with us that she took copies of our work, and we'll see where that may go. So yeah, it is huge. It is huge. All right, now with that, what I'll go ahead and do is let me go on to the next section here, and that next section is Q&A. So. Khalil, I'll turn it back to you. We'll open up the floor and take any questions.
Yeah, thank you everyone for participating and speaking. We do have some questions already coming in. If you have a question, please add them in that Q&A box. We do have some time to get your questions answered. The first question that I see here is, what are your biggest obstacles to adoption and in general?
Great question, and I'm glad that that's just right out there up front. Trust me, I appreciate that. All right, so what are the biggest obstacles? Well, it's new technology. It's in the industry to a certain extent. If you look at it as a heavily branded and niche industry, it hasn't changed since the mid-'80s. It's obsolete technology. So we're introducing and bringing to the industry the latest technology, the latest laser systems. In fact, they even use the same ones that are used by the U.S. Mint. So we're bringing a new technology, and anytime you do that, there's an education curve. For example, digital fingerprints. What is a digital fingerprint, and what does that mean to you? a whole lot. And to sort of properly touch on this, where are we taking this? Well, our objectives, one is, again, industry stabilization of third-party grading. That means we want to produce this technology to the point of where the third-party grading companies would adopt and use it. So is there obstacles there? Sure. But I think that when they see this and we get this into the consumer market, then I think that really this is where the industry is going. Secondly, with the Web3 technologies, again, there's the same thing in education curve. If somebody said to you, hey, look, you can take and you can sell that coin, but you can make royalties off that coin for the next 50 years, you're going to look at them like they're crazy. But the truth is that with the technologies in the ERC 721 royalties protocols, you in fact can do that. Now, what's the common denominator? Well, that's the digital fingerprint. You've got to have that digital fingerprint. You've got to merge that with the blockchain technologies, the smart contract, all the things that go along with that. And then it triggers only on resales. So it's new. And so frankly, that's the obstacle. Now, how are we handling that? I mentioned earlier Rough AI, fantastic company. And by the way, I'd be very remiss to not mention Digital Niche Agency, DNA. They just do an incredible marketing job. They're doing our marketing. And so we outreach to people to educate them. And we're using very target-oriented, demographics-based marketing to 250 million people in the U.S. So there is a curve. There's an educational curve. There's a learning curve. Now, one of the other things that will, I think, accelerate this, and to me, it's very important, is that we have to take these technologies and put them into the palm of your hand. That is in the form of a smartphone, because the younger generation, even at my age, everybody has a smartphone and we're all busy with our lives. So if we have the ability to take a smartphone, take a picture and determine what a grade is, if you have 20 coins sitting there and they're even raw or graded, whatever they are, and you can use that technology to say, hey, well, I've got 20 coins. I've determined 2 of them are highly valuable. Okay, I'll go ahead. I'll get a digital fingerprint. I'll engage those into the Web3 or Web2 commerce market, and I'll earn royalties on them every single time they sell for the next 50 years. Okay, that's sort of a no-brainer. With 85% of the world's population having smartphones, it only makes sense to evolve these technologies to where people have access to them.
And then another question here is, I have baseball cards that were graded and I was not happy with the grading. I did this on a lot of cards. How would your company help me on this? Would the graded case have to be opened?
So the first, great question. I appreciate that. So the first thing is that the laser will see through the plastic encapsulation as if it does not exist. It's important to understand the process. What that is that what we're doing is we're capturing height and color data, and then that data we process with the DNN AI. That is what then we take and once we have captured the data, that establishes a grading baseline. Now we start that with graded coins, graded cards, graded comics, anything graded. From there, we're then able to take and use a series of algorithms, and we can come back and say, okay, so we have captured 60 million data points from your collectible, and we have compared those 60 million data points to 3 billion data points of comparative coins or cards or whatever it is. And from that, we can tell you that here is where you sit with respect to that grade range. Now, it might be that your sports card is undergraded. Maybe it's overgraded. In any event, we will be able to tell you scientifically and provide you a copy of that scientific analysis as in the form of a report. that will support the analysis. So I think that is very important. That's how we can help you. And if you have any other, specific questions to that, feel free to reach out. You can always get me at CEO@coinandcardauctions.com, and I'm always happy to answer questions.
And then can you please explain further the functionality of the royalties on a transaction basis? Are you inferring to mint NFTs for each item graded and holding inventory in a secured vault? If not, how do you plan to catch transactions?
Great question. No, on the highly technical questions, I would normally engage my CTO, Ramesh Maji, fantastic guy. So I don't want to get too far into his end of things, but I can tell you this. There is movement in the industry towards warehousing, essentially, of the sports cars, things of this nature. Our model is constructed more to the e-commerce side. In other words, we want you to have, own, and control and possess your physical assets, just like you do in e-commerce today. So for that reason, we have additionally developed a pre and post-sale validation infrastructure, which literally will allow you to use your smartphone to be able to identify that physical asset, again, pre and post-sale. So that's part of the mechanisms which allow us to bridge that e-commerce mechanism. With regard to the rest of it, NFTs, NFTs taking a beating. I mean, the digital monkeys and all this other kind of stuff. It has its place, but for our purposes, we have coined it as a PNFT, a physical non-fungible token, and that's because we tie the physical asset and the transaction to the token, to the NFT. And we engage that market with the smart contract as far as for the royalties, which trigger only on resales. So this is very important. I assume the next question or a question follow-up would be, well, who pays the royalties? Very simple answer. If you look at the marketplace costs, let's just take eBay as an example. You're going to pay 12.8% just right out the gate. Heritage auctions on the buy-sell side, maybe 20%. That's a huge chunk that comes right out of your profit margin. Big difference in the Web3 space. It's cost is very, very low. So we can actually construct in there as a function of the marketplace costs, the royalties. So what else does this do? It vests the consumer directly into the marketplace. And what does it do for us as a business? Well, it's huge. I mean, one, we get perpetual royalties, as does the person that is selling and the resellers. But two, we can track every single transaction, obviously, through blockchain. So we know what the real value is. I mean, it's very simple. It's right there. It's registered on blockchain. So yeah, we've got solutions. Think of it as an e-commerce model. That is where we are taking this.
And then this question is, what steps do you have to take to have a public market for our stock?
Yeah, great questions. I really appreciate that. So one of the things that we did from the beginning is we have always structured this company for a IPO, and specifically our target is a direct small cap on NASDAQ. Now, in order to do that, there's a whole bunch of things you have to do, but a couple of them, for example, are audited financials. Very expensive to do for a startup, but nonetheless, that's what we've done the last 2 years. So we have audited our financials. We're lined up for all of the other requirements. Our next steps, though, to get to an IPO. Remember, we're still at pre-IPO stage. That's why we're offering shares at 75 cents a share. We know, and this is not a forward-looking statement. It's just you can look it up yourself. On a direct IPO, the price per share, if you talk to any of the Wall Street crowd, is around $7.50, $8 on a direct offering on a small cap. So that's our target. That's where we're going. Now, what do we need to do to get there? We have to build audience. We've got to build we've got to build a following, revenues and things of this nature. We're well on the path to making that happen. We've also got to develop the POC to the MVP phase one production level and get that out into the marketplace. And that specifically, for example, with the third-party grading companies, auction houses, things of this nature. And we feel that we can achieve those things within the next, ballpark between around 2 years is my train of thought. That's always subject to whatever happens in the economy, but that's our objective.
And then are you using all 70 grades?
Of course, yeah. So what we do is this. So where we started is, as I had mentioned previously, Mike Ellis, who is a four-time governor of the American Numismatic Association, had set up and made some introductions. We've had a number of interactions with ANA. We've adopted their standards of American Numismatic Association standards and third-party accepted, industry accepted third-party grading systems. So that way we cover all of them. So the short answer is sure, 70-point grading system developed originally by Dr. Sheldon. I think it was 1949. Yeah, of course we have that. Now, I will expand on that slightly. Keep in mind there are other grading systems for comics and for sports trading cards. We look at it this way. The DNN AI applies to any third-party grading system that is industry accepted. And the reason for that is very simple, because when we extract the data, we're extracting the data to the assigned grade. That's where we start. So we establish the baseline by doing this. So the answer to the question, yeah, we do use that 70-point system.
Awesome. Thank you. I had a Dodger baseball graded. Would you need a database of actual signatures to compare?
Can you restate that question, please?
Yeah, it says, I had a Dodgers baseball graded. Would you need a database of actual signatures to compare?
Yeah, so one of the things that is so cool about this, and I encourage that individual to contact me directly on this. One of the things that is really is you need an understanding of the technology itself and how does it measure. You're referring to a comparative database of signatures such as stroke and things of this nature. There's another look at it. If you look though at the output data as measured output, it will actually measure by pixel, and I'm talking about millions and millions of pixels, and measures by color. So can it make a determination of authenticity of signature? Yeah, absolutely. Not only will it authenticate a signature, it can authenticate the paper it's printed on. How old is that paper? What is the condition of it? So yeah, the long answer, yes, we can do that. Does it require a database? Well, really, it does require comparative data, which is readily available in the marketplace.
Say that I have a shoebox of old sports cards. How do I go about getting them graded?
Yeah, so there's remember we're doing digital fingerprints. We're not quite at the point of doing the grading right now. That technology is in development. And as soon as we do have it, we'll obviously let our shareholders, we'll let everybody know. But the simple answer is that you would initially you would just send them to us. We would scan them. We would produce both the digital fingerprint and the grade for you. So we're not quite there yet. We're getting there, and hopefully you'll keep us in mind as we get that technology online.
Thank you. And then what are the revenue streams? Is it just licensing and royalties?
No, in fact, it's the revenue streams. This is one of the best things I can't get into anything that's forward looking. So I've stayed away from specifics, but I want everybody to think about this. There are many revenue channels. First of all, one is just for our website coincardauctions.com. Rather than charging people fees based upon the dollar values, we just have a simple monthly. Here's what it is, regardless of how much you sell. But then again, keep in mind that we're sharing royalties. So those who venture into Web3 will soon have our marketplace, Web3 marketplace up, and you feel free to get in touch with us on that. We can walk you through and you get your product online, and then you can start generating royalties as well. So from a revenue standpoint, our revenue streams, one is going to be the licensing and royalties of the products to the third-party grading companies. So that would be one, I think, very significant center. Another, of course, is just revenues we would derive from from subscription-based marketing, or the fees that we do charge for our digital reports. I'll give you another example as a sort of a sidebar. Lateral movement in our lateral markets and insurance. We've already been approached by insurance companies that have massive quantities that they are asking us to engage with for these digital fingerprints. Then the biggest single factor, and this is what's got me by far the most engaged, and that is aggregation. There is nothing like the power of aggregation beyond, other than the closest example I could say, think of compounding interest and try to picture that as aggregation. It's actually really a simple methodology. Anybody that wants to get a sample analogy of that, please reach out to me. More than happy to follow up with you on that.
And then if we have cards or coins for sale, are you going to help provide a forum with buyers?
Yeah, we actually have our buyer is in fact is Mike Ellis. Mike has been, 40 or plus years in the industry, and he routinely actually buys and sells for many people, and for us as well. So anything that's bought would go to our program, or our numismatic program director, which is Mike Ellis.
I have a question. Say that there's someone who's on the fence about investing. What would you say are the top 5 reasons to invest?
Yeah, it's a new technology. We're pre-IPO. There's a huge need in the industry for this. We have with us today, included in our listeners, some of the largest and most significant individuals in this industry that are here today. And again, I want to thank you for being here. They're here for a reason. There's a huge need for this technology. It bridges Web 2, it bridges Web 3 e-commerce. It's a massive market. It's the technologies that are currently in use are just simply obsolete. Were that upgrade. So why would you want to invest? Would you want to be part of that? No, I do. That's why I'm a shareholder.
Yeah. And then Gary, Mikey, anything to add on to that?
I think that they're turning on the mic.
There we go. No, the reason why I invested was for to make the industry fair across the board. And as we develop out our technology, it's going to be able to be used for other industries. I didn't plan on doing comic books. We have someone that came and talked to us about comic books, and so yeah, lot of potential.
I will add, if you don't mind, one thing to your question. I left it out on, and what that is this: is that if you physically go to a let's say a numismatic show, which is different than a sports card, and look at the makeup of the audience. You go to the numismatics. It's mostly going to be old farts like me. I'm in my mid-60s, right? But when you look around, what do you see, or what do you not see? And what you don't see is you don't see the younger generation. And for this industry to thrive, we need to have a new audience. And the technologies that we bring to this industry allow us to put those technologies into something every generation does have and does know how to use, and those are smartphone applications. So this is one of the, and add to that the ability to generate royalties. I mean, royalties and aggregation is a true wealth building tool that's never existed. So that's what we're bringing to this industry. Then last but not least, you're going to see a migration of Web 2 to Web 3. And I'll just quickly mention with the central bank digital currency, we're going to a cashless society. I mean, whether we want it or not, that's where we're going. As we go there, what is Web3? It's a cashless society, essentially, because it's done by what? Digital currency. Now, I mean, it's dressed up, to look like dollars and what have you, but it's ultimately going to be a digital currency. So that's where industry in 10 years, 15 years from now, that's where they're going to be. We're just ahead of the curve.
Awesome. Well, that seems like that's all the questions that we have here today. Everyone, thank you for today's webinar. Thank you everyone who attended in the audience. And if you weren't able to attend, don't worry. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this webinar has been recorded the whole time, and we will be posting a recap. Mike, any closing words before we sign out today?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that's attended the webinar. I want to thank everybody, especially through the communications via LinkedIn. You guys are incredible. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Hopefully some of you will pull out your wallets and join us. We're a young company. We're 2 years old, but we think that we have the technology. We know we do. That can make a sort of a legacy contribution to the collectibles industry, and we'd like for you to be a part of that. We'd love to get your input. I mean, those of you who are experts in the industry, tell us what you want. Join with us. Partner with us. Let us help each other to grow and leave this industry better than how we find it.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Hope everyone has a good rest of their day. And yeah, thank you for attending the webinar.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody's time today. Take care now.